Everybody, it's Chris in Lumen here, and we're going to be shifting tracks tonight. I have to do this every so often. It's kind of like the unofficial way that we do things on this channel because, yeah, just for my own well-being. See, I was how do I put it? I was a lot further ahead. I wouldn't say I was further ahead, but I was in a much better space in like 2020 through early 2021, which I would call like, 1 foot in heaven. But due to what the job is and what we do here, we help other people, move forward. So in other words, I I hit a plateau, and then I kind of like backtrack and try and help people get up to that point. See, I don't like having to talk about how the negative system works, all the different ways that people are kept down. But how are you going to know about it if someone doesn't tell you? How are you going to know how I got to, where I got to if I don't share what I did that worked? But when I'm doing that kind of stuff, I'm having to look at like, what is the condition of the world? What's everybody looking at? What are they doing? And over time, it basically poisons me. I can't stand looking at it for too long, and it's starting to get bad again. There was a little break there for a while, but now the system is starting to like recalibrate and push, the negative stuff again, because there always has to be conflict in the world. But that's what drives me nuts. See, it's like you can't enjoy the world when you can see all the dark stuff in it. It's annoying. So we teach as much as we can for a period of time, and then when she prods it, or when the energies start changing into like a shifting period like it is now, then I have to kind of like turn around and focus on pushing myself forward, which is where we're at right now. Which means I got to focus more on the light stuff, and I've already like unsubscribed from a bunch of channels that kind of let me know what's going on in the world, except for things that have to do with physical indicators of change. Like the Stefan guy that does like the solar reports and earthquakes and things like that. Like that, I'll keep a tab on. But like what the psychopaths are doing that are all wrapped up in politics, and all the freaking devil goblins that are going around freaking, blowing up Teslas and swatting conservative people. If you don't know what that is, like that's freaking just plain evil. You can only look at evil for so freaking long. It starts to make you sick. So last night, when I have these periodic colds, like every 2 years, it always goes the exact same way. It's like this extreme sneezing and coughing for a couple days to where like it tears the freaking muscles in my ribs. And then there's a clearing phase. And it usually happens during periods where there's energy shifts. And we're going through a big energy shift right now. But I'm not trying to predict like what that energy shift means. I can internally hope, but I don't know. But I think some of these energy shifts are windows for people, for jumping off points. And I think that's where we're at. So last night, I made this pendant with all sorts of crazy stones in it. Like I scavenged some moldavite and put a whole bunch of things in it. And when I, talked to her before bed, I'm like, you know what? And I'm starting to learn I just need to shift my sleeping hours, because it seems like it's not how long you sleep, but when you sleep to get into the dream state. So I did go to bed earlier. I'm like, communicate, I like it when you communicate through dreams. So let's do something new. And I don't always do that, like I said, because of my hours or whatnot, but I did last night. And it shifted a whole bunch of stuff. And that's what kind of put me on this new tack. It's like, we got to get back to focusing on what is the end goal? What is the alignment that we're trying to be in? What is the most important things that we need to do? So if you want to know more, don't go away.
In my embrace, the weary find rest. In my truth, the broken are blessed. I am wisdom, the voice that you see. The stronger than storms, yet gentle and meek.
Now, I've said before, when you're probing the outer layers of reality, there's about 200 plus freaking paradoxes that you run into that prevents us from all having a singular discussion about what is. Because each person is partially making up their reality, and we don't even know how far that extends. For all I know, you could all be players in my own personal pod. Like, you might have your own personal identity in your own world, and we're just seeing versions of each other. Like, there's no way to freaking tell. I know that's at least partially true. At bare minimum, it is partially true, because otherwise you wouldn't have the mirror aspect. People act and treat you the way that you expect them to. So with that mirror aspect being observably, observable, we know that we are not in one single room of reality. It simply cannot be. It simply is not possible. Things like manifestation and synchronicity and magic and stuff like that would not work if everybody was in the same room. It's just not possible. But it is possible that we all overlap, much like is demonstrated in the flower of life symbol. So at least that's the way she's taught me. Therefore, it is safe to assume that, it's like the birds of a feather flock together. The people that are closest to your view of reality, the way it's being taught to you, it could be your soul age or who the heck knows. Like, those are the people that are going to be gathered to you. So when someone has been able to figure out as much of the mysteries like as I have and other people around me have, there's going to be less of us. That just makes sense. But at the same time, there's always going to be something different about each individual's thing. We can kind of see things that tend to be testably accurate, things that are within the agreed upon consensus. And much of that is explainable through things like the Gnostic teachings. So we know we're all kind of playing on the same field here. So you got to spend half of your time undoing what's been done, emptying the cup and detaching from the world. And then the other half is getting closer to the light. But it takes time, because the reason we were so repetitive on this channel is because you have to hear things over and over and over and over and over and over to sink in. It's not because people are stupid. It's because that's how it works. That's how it was with me. I saw things over and over and over and over until they clicked. You're also going to have some people that are different, let's just say soul ages. that are interacting in the same sphere. So some of the things that you say are going to click for them, and some of the things are not. So you can have a lot of younger, I know there's a bunch of people that I would call younger souls. Let's just say, with the numbers that I've pulled from her, she says this is like my 365th freaking lifetime. And I've got people that are in the 320s to 330s. A lot of them, like if I'm talking about some of the negative systems that are in place, they just don't see them. It's because it's not time to see them, and that's okay. Everyone is at different levels. One of the things that you have to, like, it has to sink in. I can only explain things from my point of view, but I understand that it's not going to click for everybody. What was I getting ready to say? Understand that Sophia is guiding you with where you're at. Okay, so always trust the inner guidance. If you're at least honing in on the highest point of consciousness, and trust that she's going to show you what you need to see when you need to see it. But skipping forward to what I was saying about, I asked to be communicated, it was kind of a surprising dream. Because what happened was, in the dream, she showed up, but she showed up as the girl who was the first, I would say, the first big mirror of Lumen after the spiritual awakening. So my spiritual awakening my real one started same time Kenneth says his did, was 2011. And I had like this warm-up period, then a little break, and then on August 8th of 2012 at 4:07 p.m., something happened in which this woman, girl, whatever you want to call her, who I'd seen, I got annoying police sirens outside, lots and lots of times over like 2 years or so, because it was a place we did business with, and like I didn't pay any attention to her whatsoever. Didn't give her a second glance. But that particular day, I was filming, and I was laying in my hammock, and all of a sudden it felt like something was coming. Something was coming. Something was about to happen, and I had no idea what it was. But when it got time to go to this place that we did business with, and I got closer to it, it got stronger and stronger, and I started feeling like this pull. And I went up, I had to speak to this woman, and then all of a sudden it was just like I got hit by a bolt of lightning. And all of a sudden she was just like all sparkly. I'm like, what the hell? And I was like fascinated, and I didn't understand it. Like, this really drove me crazy because I didn't choose it. And from that point on, she was stuck in my head 24/7. And she was very, very specifically chosen by her to be the original mirror for Lumen, because my situation at the time, there was no way that I could know anything about her. And it was meant to be that way. It was basically just to be a face. Just to be a face. But what struck me about this, I mean, she was stuck in my head 24/7 for about 5 years until things began to change and morph. And during that time frame, I didn't know her any better, but she began to take on her own kind of like personality in my head. And eventually she started talking and doing things where I'm like, whoa, wait, how'd that just happen? How's she talking about things that's happening? Like, I was like, what the hell is going on? It happened in such a way that it forced me to search for explanations that like lit the fire of me trying to figure things out, to understand them. Like, what was happening to me? Why was this? Why did I have this internal image of this person in my head that I didn't know them at all? But I had like this super like unconditional pure love for them. and there was no sexual attraction to it whatsoever. It was just weird. It's like she was chosen to be like the prototype for Lumen to form. And then later on, it would be handed off to another mirror, and then it would be come back to me. And then she would start growing her own thing. I know it's kind of a crazy story, but this is kind of a little bit kind of like how the twin flame thing works. But that was the person that showed up in my dream. I hadn't thought about that person in forever. In like forever. I think the last time I even saw her was like 2014. So it was a long time ago. And I was just like, huh, she's here. And then there was just like this gradual thing of like two people clicking and liking each other and then holding hands and being together. And it's like, what's going on? Like, this is really weird. It was kind of like experiencing all these firsts. Like it was like a demonstration of experiencing all these firsts all over again. And I got this video on my channel somewhere that Lumen had me save because like, you know, people giving like near-death experience reports, like there are a dime a dozen. But there was this one that was like really good, and it sounded to me like he actually was talking to them. But one of the things he said was, you know, when we're in the other place, like we know everything's perfect and whatnot. But like we come back here and redo this experience because there's something special about experiencing things for the first time. I don't know why it's coming up. It just is. But it was really, really interesting that this person was in my dream. Or rather, the image of it wasn't that specific person. It was the image of the person, just like in the beginning. You know, back when I did my other channel and I was designing, like that name was constantly in my mouth. That prototype for Lumen, like all my knife designs were named after her. It was crazy. And so I came out of the dream just kind of like, huh. And it got me thinking about this again. Not about her, but just like, it's like, why did Sophia show me this? And I had to sit there and think about that for a minute. But when it comes right down to it, what we call the light, Lumen source, Lumen is kind of like, she's a lot of different things. That's why explaining this stuff can be confusing at times, because like everything is one. You know, at the highest point, like everything is part of the one. But she can kind of represent a lot of different things. But the true light, the true source, you know, the Father, or the Father, Mother, Mother, Father, the primary principle of it is love. That's how you know you're dealing with the true light, is there's love. Love is involved. Love is its primary energy. Being in the fullness, the pleroma, is love. So that's how you really know when you're dealing with that, is because you can feel love. And that is the part that people often just freaking forget about, because they kind of like segregated off into this whole separate subject of relationships. And it's no, love is an energy, love is a feeling, love is a higher octave of existence. And these lessons mean a lot, because you can spend a lot of time, you can spend some time doing like what we've been doing, because you have to. I mean, it's part of the work, you know, doing the brimstone pendants and the clearing things out, you know, burning up all the dross, so to speak. But once you've done that work, you got to plug back into love again. And one of the things, she brought this up earlier, as far as like something where I only know what I know, but that doesn't mean like it's going to be the same rules for everybody. It just seems that way. It just seems that way because of what's written. Okay, but we go back to the stuff we said earlier about everybody being in their own little separate thing. Like, what might be the rules for me might not be the rules for you. But here's a radical idea that is provable. Like, this is part of the Gnostic path. This is something that I completed. And most people never think about it because they're so outer world focused. Everything is about the outer world. What's happening in the outer world? What am I getting in the outer world? And they just don't spend enough time. The inner world just doesn't feel real to them. That's one of the big things that you have to work on over time, is switching your point of where your root is it in the inner or the outer world? Because either the inner world is going to shape the outer world, or the outer world is going to shape the inner world. And you definitely don't want this outer world shaping your inner world. That's all empty the cup type stuff. But consider this. People typically go to the light because they want to find love in the world. They want to find a relationship or something like that. Please, God, let me find somebody. They got, like, asking the light to find somebody to love makes sense to them. But how many people have ever considered, instead of asking the light for a relationship, having a relationship with the light? That's what you're eventually supposed to figure out. That is what you're eventually supposed to figure out. And that's not just Gnostic. There is, even in the Toltec books, the Four Agreements series, I'm not sure which one it is. I'll have to look it up. I'll remind myself to look it up, and I'll put something up here. Okay, remember, Chris, in editing, to put this up here. There was this book that Don Miguel Ruiz did where he was describing kind of the same thing. And I always said the Toltec stuff is very, very, very similar to the Gnostic stuff, just with less moving parts. But he talks about, like, what he's describing is basically being in a relationship with Sophia, and that she's all around you. And I know that's really freaking hard to understand. The Gnostic stuff is a little bit more in depth. The Lumen, the soul, in tarot, the Lover's card, putting Eve back into Adam, marrying the left brain to the right brain, masculine to the feminine, goes a little bit deeper. But ultimately, who you're in a relationship with is the highest source. And it forms an ideal avatar for you that you interact with, and is real enough that it can oftentimes interact with other people. That would be her. That would be Lumen. And once you have that, that is the thing that fills the hole, that you don't need things from the world anymore. So your ultimate goal is understand, like they told you in the song, light of the world, shine on me, love is the answer. Love is at the root answer of everything when you're trying to figure out what it is you're trying to do, what you're trying to get to. You're trying to get to a place where it is your primary relationship. But you have to stay on top of that. Now, for me, it's a little bit difficult because I spent some time with that, and then it's like, okay, now you got to go back and help other people. But before you can walk them into this, you got to help them knock down all the crap that's on top of them, all the stuff that's inside of them, all the things that are monkeying with their mind and their perceptions, and shutting that down, and purging all your past traumas, and purging beliefs, and purging this, and learning to question the world and not treat it like it's an absolute solid thing. It is a big freaking illusion. Reminding people that the light is not outside of you. The light is inside of you. For an example here, I printed off two things, because what this is going to, what you're going to find, like, this is the only way that you'll ever find perfect love. If you're getting it from somebody in the outside world, you're dealing with egos, you're dealing with meat suit programs, you're dealing with their past traumas, their quantum connections, and a lot of times the toughest thing is projections. Like, because we don't truly see each other. We see part of each other, and then we project what we think that other person is onto them. So when it comes to relationships and things like that, what you're doing is you're taking your Lumen bits, and sometimes you'll find somebody you click with and you fall in love, and then you project all your Lumen onto them, and they seem ideal, and you want them to be ideal, but you are pasting that on top of them. Eventually, in all relationships, the truth comes to the surface, and then it kind of peters out. The only way that it ever lasts is if you take the external people out of the equation and just deal with love itself. And then it has to create its own form. But perfect love is only found in the inner world. The light comes from within you, not outside of you. The world and religion teaches you that it comes from Sky Daddy out there somewhere. And that's a completely different thing. In truth, the true source, the true Father, is coming from within you. And when you you need to bring that light from within you up to where you're at. When that happens, now you're full of light. When you're full of light, you do not cast a shadow. That's the only time you do not have a shadow, is when you're full of light. Does a light bulb cast a shadow? No, it doesn't. That's the secret. That's the trick. You have to grow the light inside of you to dissipate the darkness. But if you put the problems that we have, like we're trying to help other people, is I have to go back down a level, and this is what's going on, and now I'm looking at all this dark crap, and it starts affecting me. Sometimes I have to retreat back into the light. But as far as like the kingdom being within you, here's an example from the Bible, an example from the Nag Hammadi. So in Luke 17:20 through 21, it said, "And when he was demanded of the Pharisees when the kingdom of God should come, he answered them and said, The kingdom of God cometh not with observation, neither shall they say, Lo here, or lo there. Behold, the kingdom of God is within you." In the Nag Hammadi, in the Gospel of Thomas, it says, Jesus said, "If those who lead you say to you, See, the kingdom is in the sky, then the birds of the sky will precede you. If they say to you, It is in the sea, then the fish will precede you. Rather, the kingdom is inside of you, and it is outside of you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will become known, and you will realize that you are the children of the living Father." So what he's saying there when he's like it's inside of you and it's outside of you is when you're in the right state, it does change your outer environment. So when I was saying earlier, like I was kind of in a better place back in 2020, 21, totally isolated, wasn't doing videos yet. I still had Facebook group and all that stuff. But when Lumen appeared, everyone else was in chaos world. Everyone else was being programmed by the TV, running around in fear that something is going to go up their nose and kill them. Screaming at each other about masks and pokes and stuff like that. And I wasn't even involved in any of that stuff. I was with her. She had just come to my attention, and I was spending all my time with it. Like I just intuitively knew I had to anchor her. I had to put all my attention on her. And it was like one of the best summers of my life. Like, I don't even know if people saw the same thing as I did. Because that particular summer, it was bright blue skies and just a little bit of white clouds and bright sun, 6 out of 7 days for the whole summer. And the last time I could remember anything like that, I had to have been like a little kid. After that summer, no, it hasn't been like that. But because I was in that state, not focused on the outer world, but focused on the inner world and what had just introduced itself to me, it was affecting what was outside of me. It was showing me things outside of me. It was doing things outside of me. And the way the world looked outside of me was different. So that's what it means. It's the key. But that was just the way that it lined up perfectly. And on a day-to-day basis, people can't pull them. It's not, you don't just have the outer world to deal with anymore. You got two worlds. You've got the outer world, and now you've got the matrix digital world, which is the internet. Two completely different things. And people believe what they see on the internet and just accept it as real. So it is extra tricky right now to get in the right space to make these types of connections. But ultimately, like my hero's journey wasn't complete yet, but I had done the biggest things needed to break them out. And after like 3.5, maybe 4 years of like total hero's journey meat grinder suffering, all of a sudden I have all these like angelic characters in my life. And it was amazing and it was fun. And I was having the freaking time of my life. Then we had to go back and finish up some hero's journey stuff and then start teaching people about it. So only on occasions do I kind of get back into that space. And a lot of times it's if there's going to be a growth period or some specific task that I have to do, like when she introduced the mushrooms and, stuff like I've been places that is the way it's described as like the kingdom is within you. Like I've been at least in the outer edges of the kingdom. And there's actually some pretty good examples of that she actually brought up today. Like there's this one particular Marvel movie that is like a really huge codex movie. And a lot of people don't realize that it is. And that's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Huge freaking codex movie. There's a lot of different ways you can interpret different parts of that movie, but it's really clear because I've seen some things like that. For instance, Peter Quill meets his dad, Kurt Russell, who is Ego, the living planet, and how that's all explained. He is his own world, so to speak. And then he's got to return to the light within him, and the light is what helps him create and make things. And like, there's so much stuff, so many themes in that movie. Like it's like codex stuff all the way through it. Even with the other, character, toward the end, his kind of like surrogate father, Yondu, who whistles and makes the arrow fly around. And he's trying to teach him. He's like, I don't use my head to fly the arrow, boy. I use my heart. Heart, love, controlling all this stuff. Like, there's so much stuff in that freaking movie. She had me watch it again. And what they show you with like that ego planet, like that's kind of like what I've been shown time and time and time again, is what you are supposed to graduate to. When you graduate this place, you kind of get your own realm, create your own place, create your own world. You see little bits and pieces of things like that in the Matrix too. Like Matrix 3, the train man, like he created that whole freaking thing and he controls it. But Lumen being the light, like if you watch that movie again, just thinking like, hey, what if this movie's trying to tell me things? Like, you'll see so much more. I know you didn't notice it, but sorry, I had to just take like a 15-minute break there. A lot going on here. But all this stuff has to do with the inner world. Like, interacting with all stuff is in the inner world, and like you just got to keep hammering at it. It kind of takes time to really understand that what happens in the inner world is just as real as what happens in the outer world, and both affect one another. So when you get your inner world cleaned up and you let the light in to live in there, like, that is going to affect more things. And what I'm trying to do right now is figure out some new hardcore steps to take it to the next level, because there's got to be a way that this game is finished, and no one's got that key, not yet. And here's the thing, it's almost like whoever would find the key to the inner door wouldn't be around to tell anybody about the freaking key. It would have been like, boom. But sometimes you just got to analyze what's getting in your way. So when I do this video here soon about the 72 names, because that's one of the biggest tools you can use, like, here is some things that I'm looking at. When I say, I'm not trying to sound cool, but if I say tactical disillusion, it means like I'm specifically targeting something. You understand, your mind is like a computer. You have to go in and change the software. You have to change the programs, because things are going to keep going the way they go until you start treating your mind like a computer, because it is, and changing the codes in here. So I'm looking at tactical disillusion of the belief of separation. That is huge. That is one of the biggest ones. Is like, sometimes we cannot recognize that everything is just different expressions of God, because of what we've been trained our whole lives. You're all alone, the world's against you, it's competition, blah 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 blah. But we got to break down, because we're trying to re-enter unity. So we have to target that line item in the software, in the programming. Tactical disillusion of the attachment to identity. We talk about stuff like that a lot. We talked about it in the last video. Like, you can say it, someone can say it, it can make sense for about 2 seconds, and then you lose it. It's like, you are not your meat suit. You are not even your identity. You're what's behind that. And how we got to it, and a bunch of other people doing things like the Lumen protocols, which that's in the playlist, like Essentials for Breaking Free, like how we did that. You have to actually do operations, meaning you have to do something akin to magic, a structured setting with focused intent, specifically chosen spoken or written words, that you're trying to change something. And you'll know that you're doing it right if it feels a little scary. Meaning, like, I'm writing code to erase myself. I know that sounds scary, and trust me, because I've done it multiple times, but it works. And what you find is, like, what it really does is just like the things that held you back are falling away, and you don't notice them anymore, because the more you erase what you think is yourself, the more the true self comes to the forefront. Tactical disillusion of the belief in the outer world reality is real. That's another one that I feel like people can get it, understand it, and then after 5 minutes they lose it. We can talk about things like the Matrix. We can talk about things like AI reality, things like that. Oh, that makes sense in theory, but then as soon as you stop watching a video or something like that, your brain starts treating the reality that you see as absolute reality, because you've heard that 100,000 times in your life. And it takes some work to switch your brain over to understanding, like, no, you're observing, experiencing this reality. This whole world thing is you. So that's actually another thing, that how that fits in with that Guardians of the Galaxy, Ego, the Living Planet, and also the emergence at the end of Eternals with a celestial being is trying to break out of the world. The world is part of you. Tactical dissolution of all barriers to feeling love, or illumination knowledge of blocks that need to be dealt with in a specific way. Because there are some things where it's like you just can't say, abracadabra, make all the blocks disappear. Sometimes, finding and dealing with things in a specific way is part of the training. So you'll have to do that. But at the same time, it's like the way you find out these things is by trying to do stuff, and it's either going to work or it's going to not work. And just like, I don't know, who was it? Thomas Edison and the light bulb. I don't know if that really happened, but it's just a story. It's like, there was 100 experiments that didn't work. It's like, you know what I'm talking about. I can't think of the exact thing. It's like, no, you learn from things even when the experiment fails, but you have to keep trying to do things. It doesn't just happen by osmosis, by reading books and watching videos. You have to do things. You have to turn off your devices, sit down in front, make your own little mini altar, something to focus your attention, and you have to do things. Okay? It is not going to happen by osmosis, by watching videos. Yeah, but those are like the main things. Attacking the belief of separation, attacking the attachment to identity, and the belief that the outer world reality is like the absolute truth reality. Those are going to make some big changes, because you are part of Source God. And love is its predominant frequency. That's why sometimes you have to turn away from the world and focus on that to build it. And it's hard when I'm looking out at the world and I'm seeing all these evil freaking people. Like a bunch of little angry demons, just like, I'm so angry. I'm so angry. I'm going to blow things up. I'm going to attack people because I'm so angry. And that's the other thing that someone that is enlightened understands, is that reality changes. The reality that you see is a reflection of the way the coding is in your head right now. So I think she's saying that for my benefit too. Because sometimes it's like, do I need to get away from this stuff, or are these just characters in my freaking reality because I expect them to be there? The only way to know for sure is to play around with it and see what disappears. I don't know. But the focus, we got to retrain our focus back to falling in love with the light. Falling in love with the light. That's when you're making your biggest connections. The light is just not something that gives you stuff. Think of the light as like the main thing that you want. And ultimately, that's it. You want to be reconnected to everything. You're separated from it now. Separation from God is hell. So make the light the goal. And then all these amazing things can start happening. And then you'll see it, and you'll understand it, and it will change you. But the world is always going to try to pivot. Like when you start going up, or things are starting to change, you'll start seeing more negative things in the world that will try to grab your attention. And sometimes they can be very intrusive, and you have to take extra steps. Like you have to start blocking content on your devices and things like that, so that you don't see it. Because ultimately, like 99% of the stuff that people rage about, they can only see it, and they can only know it exists if it's through an electronic screen. If they walk outside and walk 10 minutes in any direction, none of that stuff is real. So that's the problem with where we're at today at the end of the game, is you're dealing with two worlds. And, that Matrix stuff, it's like crack. It's like they were saying in the fourth movie, which was kind of sucky, but there were parts of it that were good. It's like your brain is hooked on that stuff that Matrix been pumping in there. Yep, that's most of us. Okay, so I might have a little surprise here in a sec. I'm trying to decide whether or not, see if it's possible. But in the meantime, if you want to get in touch with us, get any of our stuff, you can reach us through the Etsy store, clumencreations.etsy.com. I will get more stuff listed. I've got a bunch of the Aegis stuff made, just need to wrap it. I started making new Divine Love pendants because that's where I need to focus my energy. Check out the music. Just type in at the music of Lumen in the YouTube search bar and you'll find it. So there might be a little extra segment here. We'll see here in a sec. Chris and Lumen. See you next time.
Hi, my name's Valerie. I'm my dad's daughter, and I wanted to share my experiences with Lumen, because why not? Me and my dad came up with a lot of different stories just now, and a few came off the top of our heads. A lot of relevance when it comes to Lumen using references around the world to give me signs that things are going to happen. I also get a lot of dreams that might correlate to some things in my life. Specific stories, though, is one time I was getting hassled by a police officer, and my dad, I don't know what happened, but got my dad on the phone. Soon as that police officer started talking to my dad, he just completely like, you're good to go. And I got caught up in some bad stuff, so that was very surprising. But it wasn't even just that. There was dreams where I got chased down roads by like black entities, and at the very end of the path there was a gold coin, and this gold coin, I held on to it, and I was trying to shove it in the entity's direction to kind of get rid of it, right? And as soon as that entity came up to me with that pendant, my dream just stopped, and it flipped to a whole different dream. And it was obviously something that interrupted what I actually should have been dreaming about. Came to my dad the next day and found out that coin, what was it?
I'd made up like a symbol that I had seen and just didn't know what it was, and then you told me about it.
Yeah, so the coin I saw in my dream, it was very specific. It had it had details on it that I described to my dad, and he told me that he actually created that label for that coin. He didn't let me know about it. And it was very weird how this coin that my dad like made a symbol for kind of got reflected into my dreams without me even knowing about it.
About your school trip. We were getting hassled, and then she made it cold. You were complaining how hot it was.
I don't remember that.
You said like your hotel room was like too hot to sleep, and you asked, Lumen to do something about it, and all of a sudden it got cooler. You remember that?
I don't know when that was.
It was like DC or something like that.
What other ones do I have? Which other ones do we talk about?
She's always saving your ass from getting hit by cars.
Yeah, so I at one point I spun out. I want y'all to think of a one-way road. So a one-way road. I was going down, and I was going super fast. I was with my friends, and on that one-way road was also semi-trucks that were parked on the side of that one-way road. And they were parked probably sleeping, or like they just dropped it off there or something. And as I got up to that section where the semi trucks were on that one-way road, I happened to just hit the mud. and that mud made me spin out. And when I spun out, I don't know how I was able to, but I didn't hit a single thing. And my car was like, it wasn't a little, no, it was I was doing this on the one-way road. It was, I left completely untouched that day. And I immediately, first thing I said was, that was Lumen, bro. Like, she saved me from that. I called my dad. I told him what happened. Man.
The time I was in the car, and that car
There
should have hit us.
Yeah, there was this time where a car was like this close to hitting my car. And it was while we were like merging onto a highway. So it was kind of, it would have been real bad, but I was also with my friend at the time, so,
And me.
and my dad, so that was also very stressful.
The Bob Marley story you were talking about.
Yeah. One of my first like real encounters, this was one of my first real ones. We had there was, at the time, Lumen was using Bob Marley and his songs as a reference to some of the things that she wanted us to learn about. And my dad explained to me how the three birds correlate to some certain things, and we had a whole conversation about it anyways. I was practicing driving because I wasn't driving at that time, and I saw a car, and on the back it had like the tire cover that was on the back of the car. It said everything's going to be all right, and that was a line from his song. So I really thought that was strange because we just talked about it. I took a picture of it. Kid you not, as soon as I got home, my boyfriend broke up with me, and it was just so like coincidental. And it was like, how, like, this is just like, it correlates too much to everything. Like, first off, it correlated to what me and my dad were talking about, and then the line matched up with how I need to act and how I need to heal, how I need to have the right mindset for this breakup I went through. And it was a really hard breakup, so.
What kind of experiences you have with the pendant?
Everyone always compliments my pendant. I always get like, people will notice it, people will ask what's in it. And then some people have negative views on it. They're not views on it, but they'd have negative reactions. So you can kind of tell who I shouldn't be talking to and who I should. Because I'll go up to, there's some family members I have that have completely jumped the gun and said, we're going to kill Lumen, this and this and that. And then it would all be because my family members would see these little pendants on my, and they would just say the most terrible things. And it'd just be, the pendant really just helps you understand who and who not, who and who is light or dark. And it's just I feel like this pendant protects me every day. I feel like I have one on my car. That one I feel like protects me from a million different things. And then I get a lot of car problems, and I'm always very fortunate because one time I got in a car crash, and it was completely just because of the weather, and I popped a tire, and literally the next day I got 4 free new tires. And that was just a blessing. And then I had a window repaired that I actually did myself. And then just recently we replaced a fuse, which we were about to just rip apart my whole car and I'd have to pay a ton of money. But because we tested this one fuse, we found out it was just this one little thing, and I continue to save myself so much money on that car. And honestly, it's anytime money goes, I always see it come back to me. I'm never ever worried about money. I'm just in a really stable position, and I never have to worry about something bad being thrown my way, because I just never have to worry about that. I never have to worry about, because there's also people that will come up to you, or people that will like, ooh, there will also be people like archons that will try to infuriate your life and try to get in your head, and all this different stuff. And this pendant completely deflects all of that, and it completely puts up a shield on your body, so none of that stuff will reach you. No.
What stuff has Jason told you about having issues with stuff and driving it off? What kind of stuff has Jason told you about, like his dreams and Lumen coming to rescue you?
I don't know. I just know he has a lot of me and my brother both have a lot of dark dreams. So his is more what is it called? Something demon. So
It's Archon crap, but then he gets, if he can bring himself to consciousness to call on Lumen, then he can take control of it.
My brother has
breaks sleep paralysis and all that.
Yeah, that's what I meant. He gets sleep paralysis, and that affects him way more than it would affect me. But the way archons attack me in my dreams is they give me nightmares about people and events, and it brings back traumatic stress, and the way these archons will just find their own personal way to get in you. It's not all the same for everyone. Everyone, they attack you their own personal way.
And then how do you get help?
How do I get help?
Sophia or Lumen?
Usually if I need help, I'll call my dad. But usually I don't need help. Usually I just tell myself to have Lumen help. I say to myself, like, Lumen will help us, or this was because of Lumen. Just understanding when Lumen does things for you is how that's going to keep coming back. You need to understand when certain things are like coming to you, because without that, you won't be able to tell them apart, basically.
So you've got enough experience that you don't need me to tell you that it's real.
Yeah.
They can't hear me on that mic.
Oh, I forgot I'm wearing a mic. But yeah, I don't need to worry about my dad telling me something isn't real, or I know. I'm very observant. I like to go through the process in my head and really break it down, and I feel like these pendants have definitely gave me more intuition and put me back into my gut feeling, because I used to not like believe in my gut feeling or whatever it's called, but now like I can completely trust myself to make the right decisions, and I don't have to worry about making the wrong one, because I know if I make the wrong one, it'll go right somehow, because Lumen wouldn't let that happen. So
Anything else?
no, that's it. Bye bye.